Now, I got a lot to say on this topic right here. Um, I've been going back and forth with people constantly about these passages in the Talmud that people say, no, 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 they have nothing to do with Christ, don't worry, they don't have to do with Jesus. This is talking about a guy that lived 100 years before Jesus. And then others say, yeah, they have to do with Jesus, but that's just some peripheral stuff. It has nothing to do with the Talmud. It's just part of Jewish folklore. Then I have other people say it was 100 years after Jesus that this Yeshu character existed, and that has nothing to do with Jesus. So there's a Yeshu before Jesus. Jesus' name was Yeshua, and then there's a Yeshu after him. I guess Yeshu, Yashu, is means a curse. And the name that are given to these two other guys, not Jesus, whose name would have been Yeshua, although I never call him Yeshua. I don't think that's ridiculous. He's now an ethnic Jew going by a very Hebraized. He spoke Aramaic, but these other Yeshus were Yeshu, and it really racked my brains over this thing because I have a desire for the truth. And then I see this Rabbi Ginsburg who, while trying to refute these ideas, keeps interchanging the word. He's using the word anti-Semite for about the first 3 minutes of his video. And then he starts interspersing Christian with anti-Semite. And I say, oh, okay, now I know I know where you're coming from. True colors are getting shown. And I see on there was Messianic Jews on Israeli TV, and the Israelis were going, who's Yeshua? We know him as Yeshu. So even all the Jews in Israel are calling Jesus, whose Hebrew name would have been Yeshua, Yeshu, which is similar to curse, and these two other guys. So I think we have to kind of stop playing games here. And this is what I found in the Jewish Encyclopedia, because somebody, go look at the Jewish Encyclopedia. And there's they showed this old copy of this old crumbling book, and I found something online. I figured, this is probably a modern, updated version of it, and it is. Let's see what that has to say. Let me read some of this to you. Jewish legends regarding Jesus are found in 3 sources, New Testament, and in the Talmud and Midrash. And in the life of Jesus, Todet Yeshu again, that originated in the Middle Ages. It is the tendency of all these to belittle the person of Jesus by ascribing to him illegitimate birth, magic, and a shameful death. In view of their general character, they all called indiscriminately legends, some statements referring to magic found among the pagan religion, Christianity, heretics, Ebionites. Then it goes on this next. That's just a bunch. It keeps going on. How they're heretics. Not the people who slammed Jesus, but these groups that mix Judaism with Christianity. It ought to be added that many of the legends have a theological background for polemical purposes, and it is necessary for Jews to insist on the illegitimacy of Jesus. Magic may have been described over and against to him, recorded. It just keeps going, and then it goes down to this passage. The earliest authenticated passage ascribing illegitimate birth to Jesus is this YEB 4:3. It's part of that's part of the Talmud, where it keeps using the name bastard for him, and then it keeps saying, and they say that a lot of places it calls Jesus it spells him out as the anonymous one, and then when it talks, it says the anonymous one is a son of a bitch, bastard, black magic, being boiled in excrement in hell, in crying out to the people that he misled to go back to Judaism, and that his mother was a whore that went around with this guy Panthera, which of course we all know Panthera. That's the Romans claim that he raped Mary or whatever, and or that she screwed around with carpenters, or the carpenter, which her son, having sex with her son, Jesus. So this is the Jewish Encyclopedia saying this stuff. I don't know. Who should I trust? I mean, they're not even ashamed of this kind of garbage. This trash here. It's kind of funny because Americans. I know this is going to get bad reception because Americans need to suck up to the Jews. I don't know why. American Christians. And even when I say that, Americans need to suck up to the Jews. Jews being said by any other person except for a Jewish person is considered anti-Semite. Now, again, you know how much I can't stand this word anti-Semite. And what I'm doing right here, just being like, well, which one is it? You say these things, and it angers me to no end. Just for me getting angry at this, I'd be called an anti-Semite. Isn't that strange? If somebody were to say, oh, those are anti-Christian, well, what about the Holocaust? As if the Holocaust happened in 200 AD, when these things were written. As if the Christians had a capacity to persecute the Jews in AD 200. It seems I remember the Christians were the ones getting persecuted. Well, of course, we were told time and time again that the Christians persecuted the Jews, and it was unbearable life, and it was a Nazi Holocaust until from the time Jesus was born, it was a Nazi Holocaust against the Jews the Christians imposed, or at least from Constantine up until they could get their state. One question I've always had for people is that in all of Europe, paganism was stamped out, killed, not allowed to exist in any form. Yet the Jews, from the time of the Roman Empire, had lived in Europe. And yeah, we see these punctuated events where there's persecutions of the Jews. Absolutely. And then people always bring up the Spanish Inquisition as if that has any bearing on anything. And I'll do a video on that explaining what I mean by that. But how is it if the Christians were bloodthirsty maniacs, every Good Friday service going out and slaughtering all the Jews they could find and killing them, that you would have these extremely ancient communities of Jews living in Europe? Where's the cult of Mithra? Where is the cult of Isis? These were very prevalent in Europe at the time. Where are the Druids? Where are the Vikings? The Christians obviously did not let any of the pagans or heretics survive. None of their religion. Could it be that the Christians saw the Jews as their brothers, and that a lot of this what's called anti-Semitic stuff now was either just fact of, hey, they left the faith, they turned against the Messiah, or two, that was the exception. If the Christians have a whole mindset to just wholesale slaughter on the Jews, especially the medieval Christians and the medieval Catholics, how is it that there is these ancient communities of Jews that were, pretty much untouched except for these very violent punctuated points in history, and yet it wasn't, mass slaughter to everybody? They're still here to this day in Europe, and they're not all the Hasids coming over from Russia. How is it? How is that? If there was such violent persecution against, if the Christians persecuted the Jews worse than the pagans, they were the worst enemies, how do we have these ancient communities of Jews? Now, I'm not saying that everybody got along fine, but if I ever say, hey, you know, under Muslim Spain, the Jews actually took part in the persecution of Christians, I'm an anti-Semite. Everybody would shout me down, and even most of the Protestant fundamentalist Christians would say, you can't say that. If I produced factual evidence of it, uh, it's still anti-Semitic, shouldn't be seen. The only purpose of that, to bring something up like that, would be to further anti-Semitism and cause violence against the Jews, so why would you even bring that up? I mean, it's a total double standard, and I can't stand it. Now, like I said, Rabbi Samuel Mann, who actually told me, yeah, these things have to do with Jesus. I don't hate him. There's no anger against him. When I see him, hey, what's up? How's it going? That guy, Skeptic Rabbi, Jew. Great guys. You know, I'd love to have a beer with you sometime. But there are certain points where it's just like, come on, we've got to have an open, honest dialogue. Do you actually say these things about Christ? And maybe I can challenge some of your claims to anti-Semitism. Why is that not allowed? It's very strange. I don't have any conspiracy theory of, oh, this is why it's not allowed. I mean, I don't have the answer to why. Why isn't it allowed? And why must we always go back to the Holocaust? Well, Holocaust, that's even a slander. The Holocausts were good and great things. They were the burnt offerings given up to God by the Jews. I mean, the mass slaughter of people in Europe. And when we use this word Holocaust, which was originally a very good thing, and it was from the Bible, to describe what's now called genocide, why does that only apply to the Jews? Because I've heard people say, oh, no, Holocaust is only the destruction of the Jews, not, you know, millions of Poles going to their death and Ukrainians. It's only the Jews. A Nazi pagan, and I don't want to, oh, Hitler was a Christian. He absolutely was not. He was involved in Nordic gods, the Thule Society, all this occult stuff, which any of that automatically kicks you out of Christianity. You can read what he said about the Catholic Church and about Christianity, about Jesus. But just because he was, I think he was baptized in a Lutheran or Catholic church, therefore, no matter what he says or does, he's a Christian in the eyes of people. We need to start talking about this more and more, because the more it gets talked about, the less people are able to just yell anti-Semite at somebody and then they're immediately discredited and nobody, you know. Now, I brought up these are points, and this has been talked about. You can go look at the comments on my other videos. You can go and look at Jewish Encyclopedia. Just type Jesus in the Jewish Encyclopedia, or Jewish Encyclopedia View about Jesus, and look for yourself. Why can we not, like, why is it somebody asks a question about this and they get shouted down? You're not allowed to talk about it. Why would you even bring that up? I mean, anybody who has to guilt trip you out of asking an honest question about history, there's got to be a reason behind that. And I don't want to hear, oh, they're reptiles or they're from the Illuminati or any of that weird stuff. Because it's not that there's got to be a much clearer answer that's right around that nobody wants to look at. So, peace to everybody. Peace to the Jews. Hope you find Christ. And I'm not saying that because I'm just saying that because you're obviously not a Christian. So hopefully you come to Christ, along with the entirety of the world. Hopefully I come closer to Christ too. Peace to everybody. I'm going to get hated for this video. It really racked my brains over this thing because I have a desire for the truth. And then I see this Rabbi Ginsburg who, while trying to refute these ideas, keeps interchanging the word. He's using the word anti-Semite for about the first 3 minutes of his video. And then he starts interspersing Christian with anti-Semite. And I say, oh, okay, now I know now I know where you're coming from. True colors are getting shown. And I see on there was Messianic Jews on Israeli TV, and the Israelis, well, who's Yeshua? We know him as Yeshu. So even all the Jews in Israel are calling Jesus, whose Hebrew name would have been Yeshua, Yeshu, which is similar to curse, and these two other guys. So I think we have to kind of stop playing games here. And this is what I found in the Jewish encyclopedia, because somebody, oh, go look at the Jewish encyclopedia, and there's a curse, and the name that are given to these two other guys, not Jesus, whose name would have been Yeshua, although I never call him Yeshua. I don't think that's ridiculous. He's now an ethnic Jew, going by a very Hebraized, he spoke Aramaic, but these other Yeshus were Yeshu, and with the Talmud, it's just part of Jewish folklore. Then I have other people say it was 100 years after Jesus that this Yeshu character existed, and that has nothing to do with Jesus. So there's a Yeshu before Jesus. Jesus' name was Yeshua, and then there's a Yeshu after him. I guess Yeshu, Yashu, is means. Now I got a lot to say on this topic right here. I have been going back and forth with people constantly about these passages in the Talmud that people say, no, 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 they have nothing to do with Christ. Don't worry, they don't have to do with Jesus. This is talking about a guy that lived 100 years before Jesus. And then others say, yeah, they have to do with Jesus. But that's just some peripheral stuff. It has nothing to do